Been better this season a little bit. Let me just turn that off. There it is. Excuse me.
Good afternoon, welcome to our pre-match press conference to preview our game against Crystal Palace. We'll start off at Vinny at Sky Sports.
Sean, first of all, it appears to be good news on the takeover this week. So what's your reaction to it? What have you been told about timescales, etc.?
Well, the reaction is obviously one that there's a long way to go, I think, or from what I gather of the previous situations, there's a long way to go to get everything to a final point. But the early signs look favourable in the situation, so we'll have to wait and see. But it certainly looks like a stronger situation than past.
What do you hope a takeover brings to this football club?
Well, I think openly speaking, that more of the stability of it, because it's been on an unsettled ground for such a long time now, with varying situations, various opinions about what was and what is and what should be and all the rest of it. So I'd imagine it would probably clear up that kind of changing the noise, as I call it, changing the noise that surrounds Everton Football Club, certainly in its initial spell. Should it get over the line, then I'd imagine bringing that stability and the feel of stability after an up and down period for many different reasons.
Have you spoken to the prospective new owners yet? Do you know when you're likely to?
No, I don't know when I'm likely to. I haven't spoken to them. I don't know when I'm likely to. So I'll await on news on that. I mean, it's not a given that they speak to me, but you would imagine they probably will at some point.
When would you like to have policy over your own future?
It's not really relevant. I've tried to speak openly about it. I got brought here as a custodian. I got brought here to do a specific job, I feel, especially looking backwards from where it was to where it is now. And I continue to work hard at that. And that's really my focus. The rest of it will sort itself out. Obviously we've got to change results. That's a given. But the actual workload and what I've done there has been considerable, I think. And I just keep doing that. And then, however it opens up in the future, we'll see.
If it's not about yourself, though, you think in January might get the opportunity to add to the squad as well? Or?
Well, all these things are to be decided upon should the new ownership come in. There's varying reasons there, because don't forget, they'll have a view of what the club is. They'll have a view of what their thinking is moving forwards. So until I know more about that, then, my situation doesn't change. I'll just keep working hard as I've been doing with my staff and the players to change the current situation, the bigger situation. There has been a lot of change, a lot of good change, I think. But the current situation, of course, needs changing. We've got to get back to winning games.
We'll get back to football then as well. Squad-wise, how are we looking this week? Branthwaite ready to return?
Excuse me. Certainly, Jarrad's in front of the curve compared to Pato. Pato's had a much longer period out and quite a serious injury. He's doing very well at the moment, but that's a longer recovery period. Ghana unfortunately lost his father, so he was away, but he was in Senegal, so he's had quite a period. He had 7 days without training, so only just back in. Miko's well again, so that's good. So there's certainly more a picture of what it is. Seamus is a bit longer, Brogues a bit longer. Who am I missing? There's one more. Youssef. Youssef is a bit longer as well. So, but we are beginning to look a little bit more rounded as a squad, particularly compared to as little as 10 days ago.
Obviously, we'll go back to the Leicester game and the Southampton game. Yeah, you had leads and you ended up losing those leads, but at the same time, you didn't compound that by losing in the 90 minutes. So, does that give you at least some kind of a basis to go from? Is the mentality shifting somewhat? Well,
I think the thing that I've mentioned is trying to mould together the new players coming in, get them at Premier League speed, which I think they're showing good signs of doing. That attack, which I think we've done better as certainly the last 2 or 3 games. We're scoring and looking a real threat, and I thought we did against Leicester. And then finding that balance to tighten it the other end of the pitch, which last season we did so well with 13 clean sheets, and particularly at the end of last season when we really needed to find results and find clean sheets, we certainly did. So there's a knowledge base there of doing it. The change of the side, the change in players, maybe learning that and getting up to speed quickly, the defensive unit coming together, and joining all the dots really. But like I said, it sounds easy. It's clearly not. But we know we've got to do it better. And I thought there were strong signs in the last couple of games of that, and finding still the open play to go and cause other teams trouble and look a threat. We haven't been as clinical as we'd like, certainly not against Leicester, because we got in some great positions and had some good chances. And then keeping the back door shut, which, yeah, again, we did better against Leicester, I thought. We conceded one, a lot was made a set piece. And I think I mentioned, if someone crosses it and a marker loses their man and they head it in the goal, then of course we as a staff, have a responsibility towards that. But sometimes it bobbling around the box, they're the hardest ones to, pick the bones out. And that's really what happened at Leicester. I think they had 2 shots on target. One of them was bobbling around the box and they got a foot on it quicker than we did. So, that was a bit of more of a detail that's kind of in the lap of the gods. But I think there's better signs, but then better signs have got to bring wins. And I think that's the biggest change, is getting that winning edge back.
There's been a case, though, of pinpointing what's been going wrong when defending set pieces.
Well, yeah, I mean, apart from personnel and the change in personnel for varying reasons, we've spoken about injuries, illness, all the rest of it, then the format pretty much has only changed minorly because we were so strong, last season. So, what it's like. You don't want to overchange it. It could be down to personnel being fit, it could be down to the team, and it could be down to individuals. So it's sticking with the basic principles, but whilst to its very simplest form, ball comes in the box, someone's got to go and clear it, someone's got to go and head it, someone's got to deal with that situation, and you want all players to have that mindset.
Just wondered as well, I think I've kind of asked you this before, but whether nervousness comes into it when you've not been able to put teams away.
Well, I don't think it's helpful, when you haven't got that edge of killer instinct, and and I think that's both boxes, by the way. That's not just looking at the front of the pitch. Taking responsibility at the back is always talked about. But what about the front? What about getting in the right areas? What about making that pass instead of in a defender, making that finish? Putting it in the corner rather than over the bar. These are all clinical details. So I think it's partly the killer instinct in both boxes, and I think we've been working on that, trying to analyse it, trying to bring it together, but equally trying to allow the players the freedom to take away that suggestion of nervousness. You've still got to have the freedom to go and play and enjoy the challenge that is right in front of them. And we've done that many times before here, coming through tough periods, and we're still coming out of a tough period, but I think there's better signs.
Finally for me, Sean, just how do you sum up the importance of this game, bearing in mind that obviously it's 2 sides that are still looking for that first Premier League win of the season?
Yeah, I mean, look, the importance of every game is quite obvious, but there are some, which you look at and go, all right, that would be considerably favourable to get a win from, of course. But I mean, we're at that stage at the minute, after a tough start, to find whatever way it is, whoever it's against, to find that way of winning, to find that way of keep calm about the situation, deliver performances. And like I say, there has to be organisation with that freedom to stay with that kind of fine line of being loose enough to play, but focused enough to stay tight as a unit and make sure that you defend properly and do all the basics. So I think we're still searching for that regardless of who we're playing, but that's the focus, is on us delivering better performances to get wins.
Thanks, Vinny. We'll go to Ellen at Premier League predictions.
Obviously, we've spoken about key players returning hopefully this weekend. Only 1 defeat in 19 against Crystal Palace. Do you feel there's a sort of air of extra expectation on this game?
I think there's expectation always, so I don't think that changes at Everton. I think the stats and facts are favourable. I always make it clear to the players there's no guarantee to that, but I think it's a favourable situation. That doesn't make the outcome easier. We're still a bona fide Premier League football club, and at the end of last season being certainly, if not raved about, certainly spoken about very, very positively, as we were ourselves. So, both of us haven't got off to the starts we want, I'm sure of that.
One of the things particularly you were spoken about very positively about towards the end of last season was when you were at Goodison Park at home. With so much positivity around the club this week, what do you expect from the atmosphere at Goodison Park this weekend, and how do you want the team to feed off that?
Well, positivity this time is slightly different. I think the positivity from last season was due to the team performing, and the positivity this week, is more maybe that feeling of what's going to change, what could change, what ifs and what ands and all the rest of it. But inside the stadium, it's our job to bring that. Certainly my job with the players to go and deliver a performance that can enhance on positivity. The fans have always been there for us. It's about giving them something to work with and to go on. And I've said that ever since I walked in the building. So that'll be the main thought from us, is on the pitch stuff. The off the pitch stuff, it'll play its part, of course. And you guys will write different stuff and say different things than what you previously. That's just the nature of what it is. But it's on the pitch stuff we need to stay focused on.
Thanks, Ellen. We'll go to Shamoon at the BBC.
Hi, Sean. You spoke about the hope that the takeover brings stability. How far, if it gets done, how far do you think it will go to fixing things?
Yeah, it's not the hope. I was just suggesting that it looks like it's going to bring a different form of stability, their form of stability. I don't know their business model. I don't know the strategy. I haven't spoken to them. I can only go on what broadly and very generally speaking has said that they've done a good job with Roma. I think that's a general overview. So I don't know what their strategy will be and what their model will be. So that'll be the first thing. to wait and see.
So how far do you think it will go to fixing things at this club?
Well, like I said, I don't know. And until I know what their strategy, what their model is, how they see it, their viewpoint of the club, what they want to learn about it, what they're... Because you never know, different owners, I've dealt with many, you know, some want to learn from you about it and some want to thrust upon you and the club what they're going to do, or some want to learn first and then maybe change what they're going to do. So I don't know what their strategy is and what their belief is and what their culture, environment, what they want to make of Everton Football Club. They might be looking at the history, they might be looking at the future, and respecting both. So I'll have to wait and see.
Under the circumstances and everything that's been thrown at you here, how do you feel about the job that you've done here personally? How do you think you've dealt with everything?
Well, there's no two ways about that. The bigger picture of the job, then I worked very hard to correct a lot of things. So I've been pleased with that. But you know, it's a strange business now in football management. You know, that's not really to be cared for by anyone else than me and the people who are involved in it. You know, the fans want to win. I've never lost sight of that. Fans want to win. They want ideally win with style, of course, as well, and in a way that you can win that is, you know, user friendly for the fans. And they enjoy the winning aspect, but they want to win. The rest of it, the rest of the job that people don't see is the bit that in a management view, this is, you know, not on the pitch is all your opinions, but from a purely management point of view, then I've done a very good job. So one day, you know, there'll be some way of me telling people the truth of what goes on, but it's not for now, and I've said that all along. And
for the fans, how important is it that this deal gets done so that they have something to look forward to?
I don't think it was any more or less important than what it was in the first place. You know, I can't remember, is that 4 or 5 different ownerships groups have looked at the club and it's maybe, and the fans have been waiting, you know, is it going to change? Is it not going to change? So I think like myself, I think the majority of fans will be saying, right, okay, well, it's not there yet. But I think the early noise seems like it's positive, you know, about this group. And like I say, their history of certainly their recent history of Roma, I think looking on a football point of view, I mean, you want the fans to look forward to being part of Everton Football Club. That's been difficult. I understand that. And it's been difficult for a number of years. But that's what you want them to look forward to, the weekend, the games. I think this is maybe something they can view as, well, like I say, more stability in order to get that bit right. But I'll have to wait and see. No one knows truly yet until either they put out what they project to the club, or they speak to me and I put out, or whatever. But no one truly knows which way it's going to go yet.
What are you going to talk about once the chaos dies down here?
With who? Oh, yeah, well, hopefully football. It'd be nice once upon a time. I think last season I did speak about football twice. So it'd be nice to just come in here and speak about football and take your questions like that. Unfortunately, my 21 months here, it hasn't been like that, and that's just the way it goes. So I just answer as many questions about as many topics at Everton Football Club as I can, and answer the best I can, as honestly as I can, and try and find my way and find the club's way through it all.
Thanks, Shemaine. We'll go to Julia.
Should we talk about football then?
It'd be nice.
Ndiaye's not played a full 90 minutes in the Premier League yet. How close is he to a full 90 minutes? Has that been fitness or has that been tactics?
Yeah, he's had a few problems with cramping up late in games, as he did at Villa. So we've had to look at that. And he's puts a lot in. As you've seen, he's a dynamic player, and that can get quite testing on the body when you're finding that true fit. And he's a fit player, by the way. But that Premier League fitness that I've spoken about is a different kind of thing. So adapting to that, the challenge of what the game registers at any given time, but mainly making sure he can see through the 95, 97 minutes and see it completely through. You know, there's a lot of details in the games. We've seen that already this season. We can't afford people running out of energy because that often brings mistakes.
You said Jarrad Branthwaite is fit again. Does that mean he's in contention for a start?
Yeah, he's definitely in contention. He's come through a game last week. He's done a lot of background work as well as just a game. You know, so he's looking stronger and he feels stronger. Pato's slightly different with the nature of his injury as well, so he's going to be a longer term. It's been, I think, we were surprised actually, now time flies. I think it was pushing around that 6 month mark, so it's a longer period. So we've got to be a bit more careful and sort of gentle as it goes with Pato to get him back to full fitness. But Jarrad's a different kind of injury and has been fitter for a longer period and doing a lot more background sort of sports science fitness and then coming into the football fitness. So he's had a good couple of weeks now.
As you get those players back now and you've got more players available to you, when you're selecting that starting 11, how are you going to look at that now? Is it playing minutes people have had? Is it ability? Is it opponent?
It's got to be a bit of everything. You know, you're trying to, you know, certainly at this stage, I mean, I made changes for the Leicester game because I felt it was right to do so. And, you know, trying to find that winning combination, winning formula, whichever you describe it as, that's the key, really. And then the one thing I do know, the Premier League will tell you need fit players. as in fit injury free, and then also physically fit enough to deliver performances. We've had a very disjointed pre-season for one reason or another, very disjointed beginning of the season for one reason, that mainly illness and injury, of course. So getting everyone to a fitness level that is important to what the Premier League brings has been the toughest challenge. I believe we're getting there now. So that's going to be helpful. Apart from the likes of Jarrad, who's just getting on the cusp. You can imagine, everyone knows in football, you get to a certain fitness level, the last bit is playing. That's the hardest bit to replicate in bounce games and the 21 games, is to replicate that real feel and all the emotions that go into performance. So that'll be the next step for a few of them. But some are already in front of that period, especially Illy. Jesper's getting there now. Tim got there a little bit quicker, but still find his feet. Obviously quite inexperienced in the Premier League. So, it's important for them all to get to that fitness level, but I think we are getting there now.
You mentioned there about finding that winning formula. Is the pressure starting to build now? People will go on about there's not been a win yet this season. So how are you, if there is pressure, how are you dealing with that in here? And is it something you all speak about? The
pressure has been since the moment I walked in. So for me, it's just been part of learning to normalise it. That's what it's like being Everton manager through this spell that I've had in 21 months. The ups and downs, the ins and outs, constant noise, answering every question about every topic at Everton Football Club. So the pressures are given here. That's what I've noticed. And, I had to learn to deal with that very quickly, particularly going into the end of that first season when, it was the last game of the season to win. That's as big a pressure as you're ever going to get, trust me, especially if you remember the team we had. We're having to change shape, change players, everything. So that's as big a pressure as I've ever been under in professional football. So it normalises eventually. It becomes part of my role here is to deal with that pressure, handle it. It's not always enjoyable. The better pressure is when you're winning. That's the better pressure when you're at the top end. But it is what it is. So now it's time to keep managing it the best I can, keep answering all of your questions about all the topics that come up and try and get a team that can win games. And that still remains my focus, but I have to do all this bit as well, as you know.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. Any further questions in the open section before we move on? No?